Like, you have to know, I would consider a plural marriage again. Like, I like it. I like plural marriage.
Listen, I've been jealous about so many things in my life, but there's just no need to get pre-jealous about Janelle's next relationship. So I wouldn't think about that naturally. It's hard to hear.
Hey friends, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It's Thursday, October 19th, 2023, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Janelle Brown and Christine Brown in this episode coming up on Sunday are going to sit down and talk about her future and whether or not she's willing to get back together with Kody and what she thinks about plural marriage. And there's been a lot that's happened this season, and Janelle, despite her struggles with Kody, still unfortunately believes that one, polygamy is not the reason why the family fell apart, and two, still believes in this extremely false belief surrounded in the FLDS doctrine, whether it's the AUB or these offshoots where every single man thinks they're a prophet. She still believes in plural marriage. And Christine, in the episode that aired on Sunday, last Sunday, had mentioned that she doesn't actually believe that plural marriage is a good family structure.
With plural marriage, as far as any of it, I think if people want to live it, fine. But I just, to be honest with you, don't see it as a great family structure, and I really have a hard time with it. But I think once a guy finds the love of his life, the other women are screwed.
Christine and Janelle have very, very, very different opinions about plural marriage. She is at a position where Christine is on a show at this present time that the goal of the show was to advocate for polygamy. And Christine was part of this group called Principal Voices that was working towards decriminalization of this polygamy in Utah. And she became known in circles as sort of a loud, boisterous advocate. And she spoke and she would go to town halls. And when they were thinking about going public and becoming a public family, she was at a town hall back in St. George in May of 2008. And she said that if they go public and get sued, that bring on the lawsuit. They weren't scared. So a lot of the narrative on this show was very much to push polygamy and to make it normalized. And so Christine is now still on a pro-polygamy show, and she's changing her worldview, but sort of trapped around others that have not. And obviously she's never had secular friends, because a tenet of their faith is that they don't associate with people outside of polygamy. When they actually filed their lawsuit, one of their points in the lawsuit, those rejecting such divine guidance on plural marriage are to be damned. So they follow a doctrine that says if you're not a polygamist, you should be damned. So she didn't have people in the outside world that she was friends with. And Janelle is, according to this week's episode, still on par with polygamy. Last week, she said that polygamy isn't the problem for why Christine left, which is false.
Now that Christine has left, people are like, oh, it's polygamy. I'm like, no, it's not. It's human nature, and this happens in tons of marriages, monogamous or otherwise. This is just relationship 101. And look, people change.
I have a feeling that Christine's evolving belief system and her unraveling of her brainwash about polygamy is going to put her at odds with Janelle, because Janelle still believes in plural marriage. And unfortunately, she is brainwashed to believe that marriage in plural marriage is the same as marriage in monogamous marriages. And you cannot compare. You simply cannot compare the two. They're not the same. They're orchestrated, and they come together in completely different ways. And polygamy is a violation of women's human rights. And in fact, the United Nations, in a report they said this about polygamy. It says, the right to choose one's spouse may be restricted by laws or practice that prevent the marriage of a woman of a particular religion with a man who professes no religion or different religions. States should provide information on these laws and practices and on measures taken to abolish the laws and eradicate the practices which undermine the right of a woman to marry only when she is given free and full consent. It should be noted that equality of treatment with regard to the right to marry implies that polygamy is incompatible with this principle. Polygamy violates the dignity of women. It is inadmissible discrimination against women. Consequently, it should be definitely abolished wherever it continues to exist. Another website that has information about this is Stop Violence Against Women, and it actually has an entire article about the harmful practices of polygamy. And polygamy is one of the contributing factors that the United Nations says that polygamy is harmful is because it's in some communities, like in polygamy, multiple wives are considered a measure of a man's wealth or status, with the resulting competition rendering as many as 40% of marriages polygamous. Similarly, men may seek out multiple wives to increase their wealth and number of offspring, using these large family networks to forge familial alliances. As a result, polygamy is most common among wealthy, powerful, or high-status men within a country. At its extreme, a single powerful man, such as one at the top of the military figure in South Sudan, may have as many as 100 wives. Consequences, it says, can be that it perpetuates patriarchy, meaning that it lends itself to information asymmetries and opposing spousal incentives, with the husband always at the top of the hierarchy. And legal systems that endorse polygamy often also feature obedience, modesty, and chastity codes that preclude women from operating as full citizens and enjoying the civil and political rights. Brides in polygamous marriages, who are usually younger and less educated than women in monogamous societies, experience insecurity, anxiety, anger, depression, and self-esteem issues. They also have difficulty finding their place in the family unit. In one illustrative example, a journalistic interview in a Pakistani judge who described in detail how equally he treated his wives. When one wife entered a room to give her side of the story, she was angrily expelled before the journalist could gain her perspective. Polygamous marriages, controlled, narrated, and justified by men, denigrates female autonomy. Beyond the psychological effects, polygamous marriages can be dangerous for women who often have to cope with domestic violence or abuse of their children. It's particularly dangerous where there's little or no choice in entering relationships or how they may become polygamous. It also has a destabilizing effect on societies, rendering conditions for wives increasingly inferior. Husbands must pay bride prices to the family of their prospective brides. Bride's price goes up because of demand as women increases. It takes men longer to afford wives. Families will marry their daughters off to younger ages to be able to afford wives for their sons. You know, there's just so many problems with polygamy. And so no matter what Janelle says, she's not in reality. None of the data, none of the facts, nothing proves that polygamy wasn't the problem. All of these women became insecure, anxious, angry, depressed. They had self-esteem issues. Everything was controlled by the man. The women were denigrated. The women are forced to obey. They are forced to be chaste. Modesty standards are prevalent. And competition for wives pushes out the men, the other men, and which is what Kody's done with his youngest sons. Even though Kody insists he's no longer a polygamist, it doesn't matter. Their family was structured around polygamy, and he followed all of the total stereotypes of a polygamist.
Coming from my perspective, but I wouldn't live polygamy again. What do you like about it?
I like my independence.
Wait, you would consider?
I would consider plural marriage again.
You really would?
Yeah.
Do you still believe in the faith?
I do.
The faith part of it?
Yeah, I do. So just because this relationship hasn't worked out, that's how most marriages
You would
are.
live in a plural family again.
Yeah, I would.
This cult brainwashes women to believe that the problems that they face in plural marriage are the same as what happens in a normal, typical marriage. Janelle would not have any of the same gripes with Kody if it wasn't for polygamy. All of her issues with polygamy have to do with his equity and how much he was equitable in his time, his resources, and what he was willing to provide to her as a husband. He was not providing, he wasn't a good father. He was neglecting his kids. He wasn't providing for her financially, whereas he's giving all of his time, money, and resources to Robyn. He's not spending time with her. He's not spending time with her kids. Those issues are not a part of a monogamous relationship unless, and it's not even comparable to when a spouse is cheating, because this is a situation where you've put yourself in a family where there's multiple other wives, and all of your issues have to do with competing for resources, for time, for energy, and jealousy and obedience, and having to be under a patriarchy. No matter what Janelle says about this structure not being patriarchal, it is 100% patriarchal. And no matter how many times she lies about this on the show, doesn't change the fact that this polygamy structure of this FLDS world is all patriarchy. Women are not human in this society. They are chattel. They are currency. They are how a man gets exalted. And the only way a woman can receive exaltation, which is the highest level of heaven, is by marrying a man that has 3 or more wives. So she clearly believes that she still needs to be exalted. And she still believes in this false doctrine. And it's just so sad that this woman who is seemingly very book smart can be so misled by this and make such blanket statements like it's no different. It's a lie she's probably had to tell herself for years. And she may not even know the difference because she's so brainwashed.
But look, it'd have to be one of those things. Like when I saw Kody, there was definitely a spiritual, like, oh my gosh, you know this guy, right?
Right.
So if something like that happened, sure.
If a guy had other wives and I married him and we happened to be soulmates, no, the amount of heartbreak that those other wives are going to go through, I would never want to put anybody through that.
Even Christine, who has left this culture, is still deconstructing, because the whole like love of my life, soulmates, my king, all of that language is dialogue and is rhetoric that is used in her cult. The women are told that they will become the soulmates of their husbands, and the spouse will have a soulmate connection with each one of the wives. And the wives will become queens and the husbands will become kings. And in their exalted world in heaven, he will reign as king and she will reign as queen. And she is very, even in her marriage, like, this is the love of my life. She's known this guy, David, for a year. She might think that today. Who knows where she'll be in 5 years? It's challenging because she says if I were to find a man and if he were my soulmate and he had other wives, I wouldn't do it. What she's referring to is Robyn. Robyn called Kody her soulmate when they first met, and she married him. She, quote unquote, said she wanted to be in plural marriage, even though that's not how she acted. But Robyn calling him a soulmate is just how women act in this culture. They all believe they're soulmates. And sadly, they have been told since birth, at least the girls that are raised in this, that they cannot be independent. They must have a husband. They need to have a man to protect them, that they cannot be independent. So Christine would not join another plural family. That's wonderful. She has rebounded very quickly into a new marriage, which, if you look at the cycles of DV and abuse, and you look at how women in polygamy leave the system and how much and how frequently they end up in a new relationship that's very similar to their previous one, because they end up falling for a guy that is very similar to their ex, whether it's a narcissist that will love bomb and idealize and make the woman feel very validated. And I don't know what her new husband is like. Christine has 50 years to unravel of her belief system. And so Christine would never do that, but she's now in a monogamous relationship, and let's hope beyond all hope that this works. Let's hope that it's perfect. Let's hope this is her soulmate. Let's hope this is the love of the life. She wouldn't do that. She can't understand why Janelle would do this. This is likely to become a bigger issue in their friendship if Janelle continues to believe in this, because the further Christine gets away from this and that she doesn't believe in it, it's going to be a lot harder for her to support Janelle, because it's going to be so oppositional to what the fundamental beliefs of Christine are. These are fundamental beliefs. This is why people that are in the world of polygamy don't interact with outsiders. They believe that you and I that don't believe in this are damned. We are mere mortals. We are wicked and evil. They will only stay together if Janelle can extract herself from this belief system. But Janelle will go further.
You know where you're at mentally, like you don't care.
I tell him and I talk to him, but I don't think he's tracking. Like he's just not.
I think he's just a monogamous now.
Yeah.
He's just a monogamous now.
This is the first time Janelle's agreed with me that Kody lives monogamy.
I mean, it really feels like he slipped into the role of monogamy, and I think maybe he did it a while ago and was just trying to maintain his responsibilities with his plural family. If I cared, it would bother me, but I don't care. I really don't. They can have each other.
Janelle Brown says that Kody is a monogamist, that he has slipped into monogamy, and she doesn't care. She can have him. Robyn can have him. In the same conversation, which was in the upcoming season teaser, clearly that's going to be happening in this conversation, is her telling Christine that if Kody could give her what she wanted, she would go back to him. In one breath, she says, Kody and Robyn can have each other. In the next breath is, if Kody would give me what I needed, I would go back to him. Janelle Brown has been groomed since she was young, early 20s, late teens, to believe that a benefit of plural marriage is that she can be an independent wife, and that being independent is a sign of strength, and that it shows endurance, and it shows a woman's ability to get through life and the hardships on their own and to become better than who they ever thought they could be. And she has bought into this belief system since she was a young adult, and unfortunately that has played quite the mind games on her self-esteem, along with Kody playing on her self-esteem, believing that she's undeserving of a man all the time. She thinks that she can't have independence unless she's in plural marriage. But if you have the right partner that supports your desire to have autonomy in a relationship, they will support your passion. And if you have hobbies that you'd like to do that are outside of the relationship, the right partner would encourage you to explore your hobbies. Janelle just hasn't had the opportunity to extract herself long enough to see that independence doesn't happen in plural marriage. She's actually dependent. She thinks that she's independent, right? I'm living my own life. But in the facts are, she has said, I have nothing on this. All of my money is tied up with him. The facts are she's financially dependent on him, to the extent that if she leaves him and doesn't fight him for the money that she's put down in that property, she claims she has no money in savings. She doesn't have a 401k. She doesn't have retirement. You have to remember, they liquidated their savings back in Vegas to start businesses. And if they don't have retirement accounts, they haven't put money away into savings, Kody's spending the show money faster than they're making it. She isn't independent. But she's been sold on this idea that because I have time and space for myself, I'm independent. It's truly so sad. And so my hope for Janelle is that she can continue to deconstruct. But even earlier this season, when she did an interview with People magazine, she said she still believes in plural marriage, meaning she still believes in this faith. She still believes this faulty belief system that where she doesn't even recognize that she's in a patriarchy. That's what's so mind-boggling to me. How she can so intelligently handle her business, but when it comes to looking at the facts, she can't see that this system is patriarchal, or else she's just lying. And I don't know, maybe she's just lying to herself. But this dynamic is going to become more and more tense for Christine and Janelle if they don't find middle ground. And Christine is now married, and we'll have to just see how this plays out for the rest of the season. What are your thoughts? Tell me in the comments below. Bye, guys.